And the checkered flag has fallen. Wow, what a crazy, crazy race. Welcome to the Pitwall, your stop. Not just for fantasy content, but now we are going to be doing our race reactions live. What a craziness. Actually, you want to start off. Relentless Comics said, wow, what a race for Ferrari. Gutted for the Red Bulls. Going to be an intriguing season and good battle for fourth in the constructors. Alfa Romeo versus Haas versus Alpine. Can't wait for your comments on this race. Okay.
Hey, hold on. I'm about to say, he pretty much did the entire reaction for us. Congratulations. We're done now. He did everything.
Well, let's start off with the information that we do have. Let's look at how the race did from the provisional results. Here we go. You can see this is just what I updated in the spreadsheet. Red Bull got a max of 4 points as a constructor. They lost it all pretty much in the last few laps, the dying moments of the race. Leclerc, if you turboed him, max points for you. Crazy. Actually, what is our podcast going to be like tomorrow for doing all that right now? Okay, we're all still trying to figure it out. But anyways, let's start off with a hero and zero moment. Bro, you tell us your hero.
So my hero for this week is going to be Magnussen. I had very little expectations with Haas going into this season, especially after last year. But man, finishing was sixth place, I believe. Yeah, that was a crazy ending. So I'm really happy for him. Glad to see he's back and that he was able to get his first race and do really well. So good on Magnussen.
Speaking of that, I want to share a crazy tweet. So this was posted out by Haas F1 team. The comeback kid is in town. Explosions behind Magnussen. It's the Nico Rosberg meme. Now with Kevin Magnussen's face posted on it. How did you guys feel about Magnussen? Did you guys think that he was going to out-qualify Schumacher and then like outrace pretty much everybody else? I see your head shaking, Dad.
No, with free practice 2 and him and Mick Schumacher out-qualifying him, I thought he was going to do that during the race in the quali, but he didn't. And, I thought it was pretty amazing what Magnussen did.
I agree because let's just be honest, Mazepin probably would not have done as well as Magnussen, right? And so for him to be able to get up in the top 10 and just hold it there is phenomenal. And you saw Gunther Steiner was just grinning ear to ear before the race. I was like, he probably didn't do a single interview last season, and they're already interviewing now, and now they're in the points. I saw that smirk, bro. Yeah.
Look, okay, so remember last year, we were all making fun of Haas, and they're like, "Oh no, don't worry, we're just saving all of our development and stuff for this next year, right?" And like, oh yeah, okay, whatever. No, we could definitely see that they've done some good work on the cars, at least so far. I'm hoping for some good stuff for Haas this season.
Only they're getting some attention from someone other than Netflix.
Well, like all the Mercedes, except the Mercedes themselves, were doing so terrible. I'm like, Haas has to be getting sponsors now. Like all those teams that were getting sponsors last season because they were in the midfield and getting close and even getting on the podium, winning races, that's all being taken by Haas. So good on Haas. Hopefully you get some good sponsorships. Let's kick it back to the main. Here we go. Dad, you said, who is your hero?
It has to be Bottas. Him making that big transition from Mercedes to a relatively low constructor and being able to pull off sixth place, because actually Magnussen got fifth place, but being able to pull that off was pretty impressive. It shows that he was a good driver, and he shows that he can still drive well, but he doesn't have the same car he had last year. But I think he did a great job to in the race in sixth place.
Yeah, and like you were saying with Bottas being able to do so well, and it's looking like the Ferrari engine was the way to go. And to make this clear for everybody, it wasn't just engine homologation that's happening, but last season there was a change to this one on now they have to run 10% biofuel. And so we're seeing that the Ferraris are the best adapted to that. And then we just heard word that the reason why the Red Bulls had a problem is not because of the engine, but a fuel pump. Apparently that wasn't supplying enough to the engine. And so then they started dying on them. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Paola, your hero.
I think he needs no introduction today. Here's definitely Leclerc. I just think, from qualifying to, he just drove so solid today, like fearless out of the pit. I think he's really showing that he does well under pressure, that he's not going to be scared off from having somebody right beside him, right behind him, the entire race. So I think fantastic race. And I think we'll see more of him on podium in the coming races. So
it was amazing to see the wheel-to-wheel battle. Hamilton. Verstappen, he was 3 seconds down, and he made that all up in each of the pits. But what saved Ferrari was that really fast second pit. But I love seeing them go wheel-to-wheel and not crash out, of course. But Dominick and Paola, how do you feel now with the regs? Do you like being able to see the cars go so close together and being able to fight each other?
No,
I love it.
I don't like that at all.
Sorry, I think that was a loaded question. Sorry.
Yeah, what kind of question is that? No, I'd rather see cars be not close and racing each other. That's horrible. No, but it was good. It was very nice to see, some of that. The DRS, like they said, we were worried that now with close to racing, the DRS might be too powerful. But as you saw, it didn't seem like it was that huge of an issue. So it's good to see. Obviously, they're going to make adjustments as the season continues, but for now, this was as exciting of a race as you could have asked for.
Yeah, I agree, because I feel like the DRS allowed you to make a pass and then battle for a corner, and then the next guy could try to pass you on the next DRS straight. But it wasn't OP, because if it was OP, then you would have had guys just pulling away, but we didn't really see that. But it was needed, because if you didn't have it, guys would have been stuck behind each other the whole time. Ocon only passed his teammate Alonso because he got DRS one of those times. He was able to finally make it stick. So.
Oh, but look, no, but see, and this goes further. I know that it was just the beginner race. Remember at the very beginning when the race had just started, and almost immediately, we had 2 clumps of cars. Remember that? We had I don't remember if it was the first 8 took off, and then the rest of them were all together. The very beginning, it sorted itself out real nicely, but I just thought that was funny.
Well, speaking of that, right before the safety car came out and big oof for Gasly with his electrical catching fire at the back of the car, I was like, oh, the new technical regulations, it'll definitely make everyone closer. No, we had the top 6, and then everyone else was a lap down. So I was like, okay, so nothing has changed yet, but there's promise. And like you said, once the safety car came out, now those two groups smashed together, and then you had some really tight racing again. Now, Dad, you said because of corner call and all that, you were in and out, but what was the things that you did catch that stood out to you?
Well, I did catch the passing of Verstappen and Leclerc. That was fun to watch. I didn't like the fact that he actually froze his brakes and put a spot onto his tire, but it was fun to watch. And I thought to myself, I wonder why he didn't wait the second time and try the second DRS zone. But maybe he couldn't get close enough to take advantage of the second DRS without using the first DRS zone. I don't know.
That was the thought I had too. I was wondering about that. I was like, if Leclerc is able to get catch up on the the next DRS zone, why doesn't Verstappen just wait? But then he kind of locked up his tires, and then by then it didn't really matter.
Well, it also seemed like Leclerc had a straight line speed, and Verstappen knew the only way to be faster than Leclerc was to be in front of him, because anytime he waited, Leclerc started building a huge gap. And I think that's going to continue on the rest of the season, unless, like they said, the fuel pump is inhibiting the Red Bull's engine. Because if that fixes it, then maybe throughout the race they'll get more sustained power. But I think it was just them running out of gas at the end. I don't know. I'm not familiar with the whole intricacies of the fuel pump.
So whether or not they ran out of gas, we definitely ran out of Gasly, unfortunately.
I am a Red Bull fan.
Yes, Dad?
I'm a Red Bull fan. So as much as I think Ferrari is going to be in the top 3 and maybe the top 2, Leclerc has always been good at Bahrain. So, I'm not going to say that this is going to translate for the whole season, but I think it's going to be wonderful to have 3 teams at the top all competing. I think Mercedes is probably going to tweak their stuff, and Red Bull's going to figure out what's going on. I think it's going to be a great year.
You want to hear a scary statistic?
Yes.
You ready for this scary statistic? At the end of the race, when Leclerc just passed the finish line, they said that every team that has won the first race of the season since 2017 has been the runner-up at the end of the season.
Really?
So Red Bull, Verstappen might actually be looking good. This was a genius move on his part.
Well, that's why some people were talking about the W13 might make Mercedes cursed. What do you guys think about the Mercedes? That you already hinted. So you really think that the Mercedes is going to turn it around by the end of the season, be fighting for the championship, or they'll at least be fighting for wins?
I think they'll be fighting for the championship.
Okay, what do you think, bro? Just wins? Or do you think they'll be able to get it to championship?
I'd like to see some improvement. I was very surprised with the fact that the Mercedes were not a lot further along, especially since the beginning of the season. I was saying that I thought this was just going to be close to last season, but I would love to see some improvement. The Ferrari part of me is like, no, let's just keep it this way, less competition. But look, at the end of the day, three teams racing for the lead is better than just 2, right? I don't think anybody's going to say that's wrong, right? I would love to see Hamilton and Russell really trying to put a dent in the points themselves.
Yeah. And I would just add, Russell showed, as his debut with Mercedes was fantastic today. So I think it's up to the team and to figure out what to do with the car. But I think once that's set, I think between Russell and they'll really learn from each other, getting along well. I don't see any red flags, at least from the driving perspective of either of those drivers. So
I was happy that someone other than the person who won at Bahrain the last 2 times won it this time, whether it was going to be Verstappen or Leclerc. I'm glad that someone new won it.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of this, Kesco Ryan says, new technical regulations always widen up the field. It's inevitable, basically. It actually is one of the closest fields after a reg change. And I think that is important to keep in mind, is that we do have racing. We saw throughout the entire race, with maybe right before the safety car is the only exception, but I think throughout the race you had cars passing each other, right? I don't have the statistic in front of me, but I bet you the number of passes happening this race was probably at least double last year. And that is because cars were able to go back, forward, fight. And so that was really great for them to have it. I guess on to my hero, I would say... Well, we'll take the easy one. Guan Yu Zhou. First race, his debut, he's in the points. I was a little sad that he was passing Schumacher to get those points, but he got the points. And so Alfa Romeo, they were looking really bad last season. Haas, of course, was really bad last season. Now both got points this race. So it goes to show how those technical regulations really made a difference for them. And that was great.
Is Alfa Romeo the only team that has 2 new drivers this year?
I immediately, off the top of my head, I would say yes. That's the only team that has 2 new.
Yeah, the Alfa Romeos surprised me. But, this actually kind of reminds me of last year. Remember how after the first race of the season, we were all up in arms about Tsunoda?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I hope Joe continues to do really well. But, we saw what happened to Tsunoda last year, so...
I honestly did get a flashback of, I'm so happy for Tsunoda, and I'm like, wait a second, I've had this before, and it turned real sour. I'm like, I need to tone it down
Tsunoda did good this race because he spent 500 laps on the same track. You know what I mean? Next week when they go to a different race, is he going to be as good? Quick pause right here. Chat asks, do you guys know when the leaderboard for points on fantasy? The reason why we're doing live and not a fantasy podcast is because we're just really reacting to the race. We do our podcast for fantasy Monday nights because it usually takes over 24 hours for them to get the whole website updated. And so, yeah, you probably will see, and this always happens on Reddit. PlayOn doesn't like it, so don't send them an email. It always happens because they'll put in something in the code, it'll update, and then maybe there's an error, and then anyways, my spreadsheet will quickly tell you how many points each driver does. I don't know why. Sorry, I'm not trying to be mean towards PlayOn, but whatever it is in their system isn't precise, and so it takes a long time to update everything. Hopefully that answers your question, Toma. Okay, moving on to zeros. Okay, we're going to start off with this crazy little tweet, okay? Okay. Couldn't attend the Bahrain GP and still got the same amount of points as Red Bull and McLaren. Vettel's GOAT. Like, oof. Bro, tell us more about why you felt Aston Martin was definitely a zero this race.
Yeah, so I actually picked Aston Martin as a zero for this race. I was very disappointed to just see them at the back of the pack almost the entire race, and there was no real coverage of them, really. It was nice to see Magnus, say his name for me.
Hulkenberg?
Hulkenberg. It was nice seeing him back on the track, but not a great showing for either of the drivers today. So I'm hoping to see some improvement right there. I've been following Force India, Racing Point, now Aston Martin for a long time. I usually play as them in my the Formula One games. So they've always been kind of like a secondary team for me, and so to see it just be not great. So yeah, hopefully there's some improvement here soon.
But they have a great green car. I mean, it's a nice looking car.
Yeah, the cars look great, but obviously I'd rather see them, further ahead.
Let's take a moment and say goodbye to Paola. We started the stream early because birthday time and being able to spend time with the family. So enjoy it with your family. And your dad's birthday, I think, is what you said. So
yeah,
happy birthday to him. Pass it along.
Thank you guys. Yeah, we have back-to-back birthdays in my family. So
very nice. Chat, say goodbye to Paola. And
bye. And one more time, let's go Ferrari.
Woo, Ferrari, the hype train is leaving the station. Choo choo. Okay, have a good one, Paola.
Right. Bye, everyone.
Well, I'm glad one of you guys is able to ride that hype train. Like I said, man, I've watched so many teams that I like in different sports where they start off real hot and then fizzle out. And I know Formula One's a little different, but it always takes me a while to really get excited because I've just seen this happen so many times. So
yeah, it's not how you start; it's how it ends. And the commentary says Hamilton was only 5 laps on the podium. It's not how you start, it's how you end. And I was like, flashbacks to Abu Dhabi. Verstappen only led 1 lap of the whole race. It's not how you start, it's how you end. But anyways, let's get some comments. Mercedes customer engines are my F of the day. Yep, Kesko's making the engines customers the zero. We're the last 6 finishing drivers if you exclude that Red Bull's retiring. That's what I noticed in those 3 statistical secrets. Man, the Mercedes customers are going to have a terrible year because it's one thing for Mercedes to change around their car, but it seems like if the other teams aren't able to change around their car good enough, it may not make a difference because their engine is just not helping them at all. But Relentless says, I believe that Haas will be stronger later in the season and challenge Mercedes. That being said, Magnussen is overpowering. Overdriving the car, in my opinion, is what he's saying. So that's a good point. That's a good point because, if they continue developing and they already have a solid foundation, and if Mercedes isn't able to turn around it quickly enough, you could still see Haas start attacking them. That would be crazy. Do you think? What do you guys think? Do you think Magnussen and? Sorry, what, bro?
I said that's a statement I never thought I would hear.
What, Haas beating Mercedes?
We're having a battle between Haas and Mercedes. What?
Actually, going back to what you were saying earlier, bro, about pink. So in the in Codemaster's game, are you going to switch over to Alpine now that they're pink? No.
I've been following this one team.
Okay, so it's because it's Force India, not because it's pink. Okay.
I started following them all the way back in 2010, and I've been riding and dying with them since. Thankfully, now the newer... So I started with them because they were the best worst team, because in the older games, you could only pick from certain ones.
Really?
Yeah, you would start off with only 3 teams or 5 teams you could pick from, and they were usually the best of the worst. And so I started with them, and Now you can pick anybody, so now I just do it out of principle. So yeah.
Okay, Dad. If the worst case scenario happens and Red Bull isn't able to fix this issue, do you think Ferrari's just going to run away with it, or do you think any other team could potentially catch up?
Well, Red Bull is my 0 this time because they're my favorite team, and they DNF both drivers, which is they kind of dug themselves in a hole as far as the championship is concerned. It is only one race, but to get 0 points in your constructor that's tough. I think if they can't turn it around, I'm optimistic they will. If it's just a pump, make sure you get a better pump. And I think Mercedes is going to tweak. They have the experience and they have the team around them to tweak and compete against Ferrari. I like what Ferrari's doing. I think that I wouldn't be surprised if they win the constructors this year, but that's only on one race so far. So.
True. Well, to put some good perspective, Mercedes did have a race where they scored 0 points last season at Bahrain. So it's not the end of the world for Red Bull, right? You just have to be up on the podium, right? If it's going to be Ferrari 1 and 3 every race, you're never going to beat them, right? You have to win some races and take off points. Let's see. Chat says, oh, that's a good point. Relentless is pointing out that because Haas had the most development time in the wind tunnel is probably why they had the biggest jump up, and Mercedes had the least, which is why they got knocked back. And so then Kesko's also saying he doesn't think Haas will beat Mercedes because Mick needs to get enough experience as a number 2, right? Magnussen might be fighting Russell, right? But he doesn't see both the Haas's being fighting, which is a good point. But that's why, in my personal opinion, why Ferrari's keeping him at Haas. Schumacher is just so powerful of a name, okay? Like, let's say Ferrari wins with Leclerc this season, right? And Ferrari starts going on a good powerhouse. Why wouldn't they want to put Schumacher in that car, right? Because then he gets to repeat what his father could do. But what Schumacher doesn't want is what's happening to Russell, right? He's wanting to be on Mercedes year after year after year, and when he's finally on Mercedes, they got a bad car. Like, if Russell had been able to get in the Mercedes last season, I think it would have changed the trajectory of the championship completely. And that probably is why Toto Wolff didn't put him in there, right? Because he would have been too good. He would have been taking points off of Hamilton race after race. But now he's got a scrap at the back.
Well, that was interesting that Russell qualified in free practice 2 higher than Hamilton, but in the actual quali, he was below Hamilton. And they said something about him getting out of the pits slower or something.
Yeah, actually, that was crazy that Ferrari was able to do such fast
pit stops.
Yeah, so apparently this is all in German, which I don't read German, but if you want to be a part of the Discord community, you can post stuff there. So Kesko has put a link, okay? Apparently, Red Bull cannot adjust the fuel pump because it's a standard part for all teams. So that means that maybe they didn't have the right connection. They'll just have to tighten it up, right? So it should be something easily adjusted. But if it's a fundamental problem, then they can't do anything about it because it's a standard part. But if it's a standard part, then it probably has to meet all these safety requirements. So hopefully they'll get that fixed. But sorry, I'm reading chat over here and I'm reading Discord over here, and I got Twitter over there. I got 3 monitors. It's great.
So we got Relentless saying that he thinks Russell's going to outscore Hamilton. So that kind of goes back to our last video. Remember when we were arguing over who we thought would be better? I took Hamilton. Dad, you took Russell, didn't you?
I took Hamilton. Jeanmark picked Russell.
Russell. All right. Well, now we have another person on the Russell train.
Well, look at how Hamilton got out of the pits with those cold, hard tires, right? He was having bad traction control with that. So there might be other tracks down the road or down the season where Mercedes may not want to go in hards anymore. Because if they cannot get the grip like they did in seasons past, then they can't do those long stints. Because that's what Mercedes likes to do. They like to do the long stints where they get in the clean air and they overcut. But it looks like Red Bull is still trying to do the undercut, and Ferrari was able to cover it off. But I don't know. I really think that if Red Bull was able to get the same like pit stop times that the Ferraris were, Verstappen would have won the race. Minus sans the fuel pump, right? Verstappen was able to get ahead of Leclerc, but he wasn't able to because Leclerc had those really good pit stops. Sorry, I'm starting to muddle my words. But anyways, I think it'll be a battle all the way to the end. I don't know if Russell will beat Hamilton over the course of the season if Hamilton is still the leader. You know what I mean? Like, once Hamilton solidifies himself as the leader, then the team is going to prioritize strategy around him. So Russell needs to start out-qualifying him. Yeah.
Sounds like he's changing his mind on us.
Uh-oh. What's he saying?
Oh, you. Sounds like you're changing your mind.
Well, look, you guys said Leclerc would beat Sainz this season, and I chose Sainz, but I said I believe if Leclerc can out-qualify Sainz has no chance. And what did we see this race? Leclerc out-qualified Sainz, and he pulled away. And so, like, we made all these season predictions before we knew anything. So it's fine. I could change my mind. It won't change my season prediction, but I can change my mind.
You know, I'm still standing by Bottas winning. I'm till the end of the season. I'm memeing that.
That's a good meme.
It is.
It's never going to happen.
I don't know if it's a good meme, but it's definitely a meme.
Yeah. Well, Paola, even though she left, she said her 0 was going to be McLaren. How do you guys feel? McLaren, any chance of recovering, or is Norris and Ricciardo going to just be crying salt at the back of the track?
Okay, hold on. Before we answer that question, though, I actually have a question because we have a representative for Red Bull and we have a representative from McLaren. So, as the person who's not salty this week, I have to ask, which is worse for you guys? Which one was worse? Jeanmark, you having to deal with your team looking really bad all race, or Dad, your team looking good all race, but then ending up with like two people that didn't even finish. Which one hurts more, you think?
I think mine hurts less, and the reason is because mine's temporary. I think the McLaren issue is a longer term issue.
Yeah, I guess that's true, right? Because like winning will heal this wound, right? They had a bad race, but if they end up starting winning, they'll forget about it, right? You remember that time when our fuel pump didn't work? Okay, blah. Whereas McLaren, every day, Zach Brown, CEO, has got to go in his office and tell his sponsors, sorry, we suck this year, right? We're really bad. And so, yeah, that's true. That could be terrible. Chat is saying, Tiago, is Bottas going to perform better than Alonso, or was today just not a good day for Alonso?
So what engine does Alpine have?
Renault. They're the only one on the grid with that engine, so we can't really compare them to anybody except themselves.
I think it's a little too early to say, but it is still only the first race, and obviously teams are having to adjust to all the new rules and stuff. I would say wait, maybe. That's why, like in our league DRD, we wait like 3 races until we get serious because we got to see more data. Yeah, preseason still, so got to see some more data.
Imagine Verstappen not being a wild card because of this DNF. First race of the regular season, someone's going to snap him up. Okay, so we got some chat coming in. Okay, let's see. Verstappen may not have been ahead after the stop, but he would have been in DRS for another attack on Leclerc. Yeah, and then Relentless, my question, who scores more points out of Schumacher or McLaren?
Oh, no. Oh, man.
Oof. If we're already having that conversation this season, that's big oof. What do you think, Dad? Schumacher and the McLarens are out of the points. Who's more like... Okay, let's start this. Who's going to score first?
Schumacher.
What are you, bro?
What was the question?
Who's going to get points first this season? Schumacher or McLaren?
I mean, Schumacher should have almost got points this race. So, I mean, it seems like unless something drastic happens...
remember, the only reason he was fighting for points because of the safety car.
Yeah, that's true.
He was languishing in 14th. But that's still best.
Still better than like 17th and 18th. So
right, true.
You know, the thing that hurts me though is that I really feel like the 2 McLaren drivers are probably the most likable drivers in the entire grid. honestly. So to see them have such a great year last year, and now it's still first race, obviously, but like just to see them in the back, just the worst, man. We're not getting a shoey this year, probably.
Well, so that's why it stings for Norris not winning in Russia last year, right?
Yeah.
You get your one opportunity to win a race, and then you don't, and then you might have to suffer for a year. But here's the thing: here's the light at the end of the tunnel. Let's say McLaren is near the back of the pack this season. Well, then that means they get the most wind tunnels for next season to try to catch that back up. But I don't know how much of a difference that's going to make, because I'm assuming, because we're in these regulations, they're not going to be just changing them all the time. So everyone's going to start, like, getting close to each other. But I'm not super familiar with how much the wind tunnel is going to make a difference. But Tesco, oh yeah, bro.
Sorry, and so we're actually going to also see what a cost cap, how that affects teams, right? Because we're talking about they get more time in the wind tunnels, which is fine, but you now have less money to adjust problems, right? So,
that's another thing. Let's say a part of your car breaks down. Well, okay, you make a replacement part. But let's say you have to change the part. Well, then that means all those parts that you made before are wasted, right? And so then you have to make a decision on how many of these parts you're going to make, and then when are you going to make new parts. And this is why Peter Windsor on YouTube, he makes really good analysis. He's actually the reason I switched from Ferrari to Red Bull. Maybe I shouldn't have listened to him. So what he said was that the Red Bull were a second faster on the medium tires. And so I figured what would happen is that even though Ferrari had outqualified, Red Bull might be able to catch them in pit stop strategy. But the teams did like 3-4 pit stops this race, so it pretty much mitigated any sort of advantage, right? But what he was pointing out is that the reason why the Haas is doing so good is because Haas is built by Dallara, and Dallara builds really strong, durable chassis. So then that means that they don't have to have the problems like Mercedes does with parts like waving around, flapping around, but also that means that Haas is probably going to do less replacement parts over the course of the season, which means that they're less likely to have all these extra pieces that they then have to throw away if they need to develop something new. Okay, here, Peel. Can you change constructor or only drivers? This is a fantasy question, right? You can change any of the 6 slots on your team. Just have to have it in your budget. I would say to everybody, even though we're going to have our fantasy podcast tomorrow night, if you want to use a wild card, do it now. Okay, it's the first race of the season. Everyone's overreacting. Only use the wild card. Only use the wild card if you're going to use over 3 subs. Okay. Now, if you don't think you're going to use 3 subs, you could use the wild card if you're trying to run up the price. So, for example, I noticed that they haven't opened up the sentiments yet. So I went ahead and already changed my lineup for the next race so that I can, get ahead of the curve, because I already kind of know the drivers I think that are going to be dropped, and I don't want to lose value, right? Okay, let's see. What else is chat saying? Also, engine freeze is happening, partly underway, so good luck even with the extra wind tunnel time. Yeah, like if your engine's terrible, then you're going to be stuck.
I mean, hopefully, even if you can't change things for this season, being able to have that information could still help for next season, right? Yeah, I can't change my engine now, but maybe they can still use that information.
Man, there's a lot of questions about fantasy right now, because this is supposed to be the podcast live. The
problem is if we wait till tomorrow, then it will be an edited version versus a live version.
Which means that they would have to wait till Tuesday. So then
it might be quicker just to quickly answer them.
Okay, sure. We'll transition from race reaction unless there was anything else wanted to say with the race.
Well, we haven't really gotten to the reaction part, Jeanmark. We have only done the hero and zeros. We really haven't. Mom hasn't had a chance to give her reaction.
Okay, guys, hold on your fantasy questions. We're gonna finish this race reaction. If you want to ask your questions like you're doing in chat, join our Discord. Link is in the description below. People can help you out. We'll probably be talking about wildcard strategies, but let's. The purpose of this live stream is for race reaction. So, Mom, you are a Perez fan. You've watched the full race. Okay, what is your race reaction?
Race? Let's see. At the start, it seemed like everybody was on edge to see who was going to crash in the first few turns, and miraculously, the race went on. Like, yay! adjustments made with those cars to be heavier so that they could be closer passing, I feel like are more safe. So we had a really good race the whole time with everybody racing, no crashes. And so I think that the announcers by the middle of the race were getting bored because it's like, oh everybody's just racing along. And I'm like, yes, a real race. And it was nice to see some people trying to pass in the middle of the race. But then we get to the middle of the near the end of the race when Verstappen starts kind of like, there's something wrong with my car. There's something wrong with my car. I'm like, what is the deal with that? And then he goes out, and I'm like, no, that means that Hamilton is getting closer to getting on the podium. No, Perez, hold him off. I want you on the podium because I was wanting him to pass the third place person. Hold him off. And then when he started on the radio saying, there's something wrong with my car, I'm like, just 2 more laps. Hold him off. The last lap. Feel a little bit. What? I blinked and it was like, what happened? And then they showed the replay that his car died. So I was so disappointed. Hamilton got in there. The other Mercedes got in there. And I go, okay, well, Dominick will be happy. Ferrari won. Because Ferrari moved right into Verstappen's spot. But it was nice, like I said, to not have all this virtual safety cars and yellow flags slowing down the race, and that everybody was able to race. That was just my opinion.
Yeah. Thank you, Mom, for sharing. And that was a good summary.
Now you know why I enjoy watching it with my wife.
Yep.
So we got the perfect couple right here. We got one person that likes one half of Red Bull, and the other person likes the other half of Red Bull. And so the two of you come together to make one Red Bull team. Ain't that great? No, but I will say, the announcers were saying that this, I believe they said that this would have been the first race ever where up until Gasly, with only, 10 laps left? No. Yeah. 15, 14. This would have been the first Formula One race where the first race of the season had no retirements, and then almost all out of nowhere, bam, three in a row, bam, bam, bam.
Destroyed.
We had almost none to 3 within the span of 10 laps.
It was terrible. Terrible. Okay, so bro, did you feel the same? I felt a lull, it was getting dull halfway through the race, and then Gasly got knocked out, and then everything just tumbled from there.
I think you need to understand, though, as a Ferrari fan, I'm perfectly okay with a Leclerc 3-second lead that's never going to be challenged. I mean, it's less interesting for everybody else, but I mean, a win for Ferrari is a win for Ferrari. But I will say, I was getting a little worried. The Red Bulls had that massive comeback after the first pit stop, I was like, where'd his 3-second lead go? Why is Verstappen right behind Leclerc? But I'll tell you, that was the most entertaining part of the race easily, was the battle between Verstappen and Leclerc for first place. Let me tell you. I was nervous. Man. Very, very nervous.
But Jason says, yeah, bro?
No, but I was saying, the funny thing is last year, because as an American, you know that most of us were rooting for Verstappen just because we like seeing somebody new win. But I was saying that all of the reasons I loved Red Bull last year, now I despise because now it's Ferrari that they're having it. Now they're doing these things against Ferrari. I'm like, oh, no, stop, Red Bull. You don't need to be so good anymore. You can relax. No more of that. Stop. I don't want to see any 2-second pit stops out of you guys.
No. Okay, Dab, how would you... I know there's a lot of people asking questions in the chat. Like I said, we're going to finish this race reaction thing, and then we'll try to answer some of your questions. I will say Jason likes that mom with the passion. Love it. And then Kesko, he's like, man, everyone in your family is interested in Formula One. I am envious. Okay, quick story before I get to Dad. Okay. I was the only person interested in Formula One, okay? This is how you sneakily do it, okay? I'll tell you my life story, okay? So we were in Germany for my aunt's wedding back in 2004, okay? If you're familiar with the F2004, it was the most dominant Ferrari car ever, right? So I don't know any German, but FIFA World Cups at that time, and my uncle, or soon-to-be uncle, he was like, hey, if you guys stayed here an extra month, I could take you to a World Cup game. Anyways, we're in the middle of this marketplace, and I get my hands on this little magazine. It's got a Ferrari on it, of course, a Schumacher's Ferrari. That was the only name or word that I recognized in all the German. I was like, something Schumacher. Okay, I knew it was about this racer. I didn't realize at the time that he was like, the greatest going on. And then when it became time for me to get F1 TV, or I was an adult and I wanted to get into Formula One, I was like, hey, this is the year I want to. It's 2018. This is when Vettel had just won the first couple races, and he's starting to do his championship fight with Hamilton. And so then I called up my bro and my dad and said, hey, do you guys want to watch Formula One with me? But I knew that they wouldn't watch Formula One unless it was available in the United States. I have F1 TV. My dad didn't buy it till last season. So what did it take you? It took you like 3 years before you got it. But I knew that if I asked them to play fantasy Formula One with me, then they would start watching the races, because we played fantasy football, like American football, and you start paying attention to all the games, not just your favorite team when you do fantasy sports. So when I convinced them to join me, it took 2 years or so, and then you both were like into it. Like, Dad, of course, got into Dominick, you might have been interested in Formula One before we started watching, but like we actually like dove into it. Then when we started the podcast last year, because I was like, hey, people might like us sharing what we're talking about over the phone. Let's record it, because I don't take pictures of me. Only once a year do we get like family photos at Thanksgiving. So I was like, let's do let's do podcasts so that we're able to see each other and it'll be good memories. So then over the course of last season, and the all you cool people joining us on the YouTube got my mom and my sister's attention. And so, Dad, I guess you were able to convince Mom to watch some of the races, or at least, I don't know, listen in, or she liked the fact that we were putting out the video. What was your side of the story? How did Mom get involved? Oh, you're muted. Oh, you're still muted. Maybe your Discord? Maybe you need to change up your Discord.
This is a compelling testimony. Woo!
Man, we've lost you, Dad. Now, you probably want to go in Discord, and you want to go to user settings, and then voice and video.
There he is.
Yeah, so I had to go into voice. So what really got Jenny, your mom, Jenny, into it was she started paying a little attention, and then the Mexico Grand Prix came up.
Oh.
And Perez did amazing, in the Mexican Grand Prix, and she
just caught the fever.
She got the fever at the Mexican Grand Prix, and him actually getting it. And, she's actually born in Puerto Rico, and so she's fluent in Spanish. And so Perez is something, that's a Spanish person. So that kind of got her interest.
Now, I will say, before Mexico, Mom has done something none of us have done. Okay, she went to an F1 race. She was visiting her sister in Italy, and I noticed the dates when she was over there visiting, and I was like, hey, Dad, Mom could watch a race. And that was a whole funny story if you guys were following the podcast last season, where she, like, last minute was able to go watch the race. And she said it was really hard to follow in anything because it was, like, all in Italian, and she wasn't, like, in the main grandstand seeing everything. Anyways, so I think those two things really played involved with her, like, being interested. But like you said, Perez is her driver, and that was that's what got her.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think she went to the race to give a race reaction for you in your podcast.
Yeah.
Just because she was interested in something you're interested in. And then with that, she just it built up after that. So she bought us, some merchandise while she was there, and we were able to enjoy that.
Christmas presents.
Yeah.
My mom buys Christmas presents months in advance, and she has a place in the attic where she wraps them ahead of time, and the places as a kid I knew not to ever go up there and peek around, but Mom plans way ahead. So, and then Sable, how did she? What, Dad?
Yeah, you was going to mention Sable and Norse, and the whole thing with Orange.
How did Sable get in?
She came home and watched the race she watched the race here. Did she watch race with you guys when she visited you guys one time?
I had her watch a couple. I made her sit through the horrors of Russia. Anyways, so she must have come home for like spring break or something like that, and must have, or maybe it was in August when they were getting ready to get married. She must have been just home for you guys and was watching a race. And
Yeah, she watched the race with me live here at the house, and I was explaining to her about it, and she just liked Norris and the McLarens, and of course at that time they're doing real well relatively, but she liked the idea that he was a young driver, and she loves orange, so
there you go, favorite color. So that's kind of the history of how our family got into it. I see all your questions, guys. We're almost there. Dad, your race reaction, what was your big takeaways or the experience for you?
So I was kind of excited when Hulkenberg had a chance again. He has the most starts without a podium, 180 starts now without a podium. But I kind of figured he wouldn't get on the podium replacing Vettel. But it was nice to see him racing again.
Actually, that's an interesting thing. Let me share this on. I put out I love, if you follow us on Twitter, I love doing the polls and stuff. So we'll kick this over to Twitter.
Did we say hi to Vonk yet?
Hi, Vonk. Hello. Sorry, that was a few minutes
ago, man. We ignored.
Sorry, this is our first podcast. I mean, first live stream. We're getting used to it. Okay, so I put this out on Twitter, and I said neither Hulkenberg or Ricciardo did preseason testing, which is more likely to outperform their teammate during race 1. Okay, Hulkenberg is what they said, 67%, and he actually outqualified Stroll. I was very surprised, but like you said, he wasn't able to perform well during the race. He didn't get anywhere close near the points, and I think Stroll finished ahead of him. Do you know, did Ricciardo finish ahead of Norris by the end of the race?
Yes.
Okay.
Ricciardo was 14th, and Norris was 15th.
So, yeah, so that stat continues for Hulkenberg. Any other things that stood out to you for the race? Yeah.
No, I enjoyed the race too, partly because I'm a Verstappen fan, and he was potentially competing for first place until he wasn't.
Until he was. Oof. Well, for me, like I said, McLaren being my favorite team historically. Actually, when I first started watching, it was Ferrari because Vettel. I liked the number 5. He had just won Australia. I got in at the second race, and then I still hated when he had that error in Germany. He never recovered from that. Hamilton just went away with it. But anyways, because historically, Codemasters had in 2019 the Senna versus Prost. I love the McLaren, the 1991, 1988. I like those McLarens a lot more than the Ferrari. I know a lot of people love the 91 Ferrari, and a lot of people are saying this Ferrari has homages to it because it has the black wing on the front and the back. So yeah, I'm going to have to just root that there's a championship fight going on because my team's not even there. Okay, let's go on to our questions. I know a lot of you have questions, so let's go over this, and then we'll close out our our live podcast. Okay, here we go. A lot of you asked questions about fantasy. Some of you asked questions about K-Mag. You can, if you came in late, you can, after the stream's over, watch at the beginning and see when we talked about him in the Heroes and Zeros.
But just a quick recap, K-Mag was awesome.
K-Mag was great.
And for his price, you might as well have him on your fantasy team.
Exactly. Some people are asking, Pedro says, I got 271 points this first race. I want to stay with the same draft that he had. Very good. For those of you who are wanting to know when do points update and when does it all get finalized, it usually takes over 24 hours from when the race is over to everything finalized. Okay, but for our one race challenges, we usually take screenshots because usually by the end of tonight, we can get an idea of the order. But as soon as the event closes and it's finalized, then you can start updating the sentiment. Now, let me show it to you guys because some of you guys had questions about when you could sub. This is a nice little trick I found out last season. Go over to the web.
You know, all these people in the comments who are showing off their points, they probably turboed Leclerc, I bet.
Oh, yeah, pretty much. Anybody who got a decent haul would have turned.
In there, you probably turbo Leclerc.
Okay, as you can see here, you have... So, see, this is weird. Why is he getting 96 points? Oh, no, that's right. That matches. See, like earlier today, it said 72. It just takes a while for all to update. Okay, so here's the trick I'm teaching you now, okay? So normally this is your lineup, and then if you hit this down arrow key up at the top, it allows you to update the next race. So what people were doing last season is before the race was even over, they would start doing their sub. As you can see, I've already changed my lineups for next race because I want to beat the rush. And I've already used a wild card on my second team, so because this is my money-making team, my day trading team. So I'm going to be tracking how people are trading in and out, and I'll try to get on that train and raise in value. Like I said, up here, this drop-down menu, you have your current. It says live, and when it stops says live and it's done, then everything will finalize. Actually, let's go to leaderboard. As you can see, no data available. My games, if I go over to the Pitwall, it says I'm number 1. Well, that's because leaderboards will update after the race week finishes. See, everyone's just zeros. And so just be patient. It'll take roughly 24 hours for everything to be finalized. See, 0, 0, zeros. Anyways, that is that update for that. On your fantasy points. Let's see some other questions. What do you guys think about the huge amount of pit stops and how it will affect the rest of the season? Toma asks.
You got some opinions on that, Dad?
I think the more pit stops, the more strategies you have. But I like the fact that they don't have to have the same tires that they do when they free practice too. So anyone can pick their tires to start the race. And we saw that today, how there were different strategies. Unfortunately for Mercedes, the hards didn't work as well as they planned. I think they were planning on 1 stop or maybe a 2 stop with the real soft at the end. But I think it'll add more variety and more strategy. So I like it.
Yeah.
I don't think this is an unpopular opinion, at least I wouldn't hope, that pit stops it's always kind of like a grab bag for pit stops, and I've always found them exciting. Just because you never know what's going to happen, right? Obviously, you can't have undercuts or overcuts if you don't have pit stops. So more pit stops means more chances for that. But I'm expecting, as they get more data on the tires and stuff, that we'll probably see there might not be as many pit stops over time once they realize what the what the limitations of the tires are. But I enjoyed it a lot this race. We got some good racing out of it. So
it might depend on the circuit, because this circuit, if you've ever played Codemasters game, this circuit does a lot on your tires, and so that's probably why they had so much. But realize the 18-inch tires have smaller walls and stuff like that, and so the commentators were saying you have to brake and then gear shift down, change direction, and then accelerate, but don't be moving your car around. In the past, it was called trail braking, where you were turning while under braking, and apparently these tires aren't as happy with that. And so once guys get used to it, then they probably should be able to get their tire life longer. But I would rather have an option between a 2-stop and a 3-stop than a 1-stop and a 2-stop. Like you said, bro, pit stops just add a lot of flavor. Okay, continuing on. Leo, do you know when the leaderboards will update at F1 Fantasy and price change? I think we've addressed that already. Anvil says, I got 258 points. Congrats. Leo, thank you very much for answering. I need to close a $2.5 million gap from Bottas and Verstappen. I have a 19 million budget left over. Do you think it will be realistic for Bottas to increase 1.25? No. Drivers do not go that high. Man, maybe I should pull up the statistics so you guys can see. Let me do that. I can show you guys some history. The way that you can get that gap is you probably want to watch my wildcard video or my increasing your budget video. The main thing what you want to do is use a wildcard as soon as things go live so that you can trade as people go up. And you could probably gain, last year with the 3 weeks in between race 1 and race 2, people were able to gain 3 million. But like I said, Bottas himself won't go up 2 million. What you'll have to do is grab a guy who's going up, then trade off as another guy's going up, and you keep juggling until you got your 3 million, and then you settle on your quick. Okay. I guess we're blocking some of this. On the left, this is from 2021, that spreadsheet. On the left, I have my sentiment tracker. Every time it spikes is when the value would go up or down. And because Tsunoda had such a great race last year, we saw that he spiked 1, 2, 3, 4. That meant that Tsunoda went up by 0.4 million after race 1. And then because he did bad, between race 2 and 3, he spiked once. And it looks like he might have spiked a second time, or maybe, well, I would have to look at the hard data, but at least he spiked down once. And so let's say you had Tsunoda, you juggled him, and he spiked 4 times. That's 0.4 million. And then let's say, let's see, Aston Martin, as you can see, went down a bunch of points. Like, they lost a lot of value. Okay, here's the other people who gained a lot last season was Leclerc and Sainz. So Leclerc went up 1, 2, 3, 4. No. Between race 1 and 2, he went up 1, 2, 3. So that's another 0.3 million. And then if you were juggling Sainz, as you can see, he was not worth. So maybe between those two drivers, you could have got 0.7 million. Oh, another guy that got a bunch was Norris. He went 1, 2, 3. So that's another 0.3. So that's already a million there. Let's see who else spiked. Red Bull was spiking. So if you had Verstappen, he went up 1, 2. Okay, so that means that's another 0.2 million. Anyway, so you were able to do some juggling, and then that could show that you could maybe catch that up. Okay. Do you think Magnussen is going to, this is Jason, do you think Magnussen is going to see the highest increase this week? Yes, I think so. What day of the week is in the pricing updates? Updates will probably be Monday, as soon as everything finalizes. It could happen tonight, so stay tuned on that. But actually, do you think Magnussen is going to see the highest increase? Actually, let me paraphrase that, okay? Norris last season started the season, I think, with 60% of teams had him, okay? After the end of the season, it was up to 63, okay? The reason why Norris didn't change much the whole season is because it only increased by 3%. Tsunoda, no one had him on his team, and then suddenly he went up a bunch, which is why he gained. So, one of two things could happen. Magnussen could spike if a bunch of people pick him up, but if a bunch of people already had him on their team because he was the cheapest option and people were trying to, get a Verstappen and a Leclerc and a Sainz or a Red Bull constructor on their team, then Magnussen may not actually go up in price at all because too many people have him. Sentiment only goes up if people are picking him up, and sentiment only goes down if people are dropping them from their team. And so, yeah, I might have to give updates. We'll hopefully be able to do that in our podcast tomorrow night once everything starts going crazy. I currently have a Discord bot that is being developed right now. And if you join our Discord, what it'll do is it'll start tracking sentiment. And so when the API... that's trademark stuff. Anyways, trademark, that's under the cover stuff.
That's secret stuff.
There you go. Yeah, company secrets.
That's our secret sauce.
When sentiment goes live, it'll start tracking the data. The Discord bot will be able to start tracking the data. And then I used to do it last year by hand. It was annoying. So I'm going to see if there's a way to integrate that with my spreadsheet easier. But we're going to design the bot so that when a driver gets above 60% or negative 60%, it gives a notification in the Discord. And if it goes up to 80%, another notification, 90%, another notification at 95%, and then finally if there's a price change. And then if you are a premium, support us on Patreon, then you get access to the premium channel, which the Discord bot will tell you who is going up and down. So that'll be good. That's kind of like a big promo, but hopefully that will be the biggest advantage of being in the Discord is you'll get notifications. Okay, let's continue on. This is Inigo. Which drivers should we consider getting in our teams for trading increasing value? That's something that we'll probably discuss in the Discord under Pump It Up. Fantasy FantasyFormula1Tracker.com has a really amazing Discord, and they pretty much encouraged me to make my own Discord community, and so I copied their format, and they had this hilarious channel called Pump Coordination. My wife is against pump and dump schemes, which is what you see in the stock market, but this is a game, so they do it without, people aren't losing money because you're doing pump and dumps. But they have 1,500 people in their Discord, and so what they would do is they would coordinate when people gain. So if there was a bunch of people of you in the Discord, they're like, hey, I'm interested in picking up so-and-so, you guys could talk and say, hey, maybe we should do it together. But we don't have that size of community, and I'm still on the fence about if I'm going to do the whole pump it thing. I find it hilarious, the song they use, so we'll play around with it. But I will probably be using the Pump It Up channel for talking about wildcard, since we're in the wildcard. Sorry, this is getting verbose. To answer your question, you need to notice if a driver is going up in sentiment. If they, like I said, if they get above a 60%, watch. If they're giving above 80%, they're likely to, that means they have an 80% chance of changing in the next 24 hours, okay? So if a driver is up in 80%, you probably want to pick them up on your team, because then the more people who pick them up, the quicker it'll get to price change. If a driver gets down below 80% negative, you want to drop them or you're going to lose your value. So that's something that we can talk about in the Discord as we try to do strategies. Tiago says, are you going to show your wild cards and explain? Okay, I'll show it to you guys. Let me show it to you guys because I've already kind of started doing it.
The difficulty about the wild card is unless he's doing it live, you might not be able to get the same benefits he will.
Correct. Okay, so let me show you guys what I currently. So web. Here we go. Okay, here's my teams, right? Boom. Okay, here are my teams, right? This is what it was for this race. Midway through the race, because it's still live, I went to my next lineup, and I've already subbed out people. I didn't make too much changes on Team 1. I just wanted to pick up Ferrari because I figure everyone's going to get on that Ferrari hype train, and they're going to go up in value. Team 2, I dropped Verstappen because people are probably going to be upset that he DNF'd, and they might drop him. Maybe not. But I picked up Russell because he did good enough. People might pick him up. I'm keeping Magnussen because everyone's going to be on that train, and then picked up Ferrari because people will probably be on that train. Bottas did good enough that people might consider having him because he's 9 million. So on Team 2, I've already used 4 subs. Team 1, I've only used 1. So I used my wild card on Team 2 because I used more than 3. Plus Team 2 is my day trading team. So with 8 substitutions left, I know at the end, I want to have both of these Ferraris on my team. And probably will keep the constructor unless Red Bull shows good. But I want to at least keep 1 substitution in the pocket in the case I want to make a last-minute decision. So that gives me 7 substitutions where I can be dropping Russell after he peaks to pick up someone else who peaks, or dropping Bottas after he peaks to pick up someone else who peaks. I probably won't drop Magnussen, but he's so cheap that even if he goes up in price, it'll give me extra cap space so that I can keep juggling and get him back, because he's going to be a steal of the season if he's going to be up in the points every race. Okay, we'll talk about this hopefully more during our podcast tomorrow night. Let's go back to our main. Tiago, how are you going to show? Yeah, okay, we did that. Anvil, any ideas how different is Jeddah going to be? They're changing some of the corners so that they're not blind. That's all I know. You'll probably want to keep up to date. I don't think it'll change lap times. It'll just change safety, is what I'm hearing. Fred says, my team is Leclerc, Sainz, Perez, Bottas, Magnussen, Ferrari, plus 8 million left. What do you suggest me to do? I'm new to F1 Fantasy. So if you just saw what I talked about with Wildcard, if you have 8 million, that means that you have some cap space to be able to upgrade a driver. So for example, maybe you don't want Perez and you want to get up to Verstappen, right? What is the gap between Verstappen and Perez? That's how much money you need to make using your wild card over the next week or a couple weeks. Because like I said, last year there was 3 weeks between race 1 and 2. This year there's only 1. So there are some people who aren't going to use their wild card this race. They're going to use it next race. But we'll see how that all pans out. Remember, you get 2 wild cards, 1 before summer break, 1 after. Just like you get 2 mega drivers, 1 before summer break and 1 after. Okay. Inigo, and when do the prices actually update? A lot of people keep asking this. If you're new to fantasy, just hold your horses. The website is really slow and clunky, and it takes by tonight, so probably 8 hours after the race, for things to start finalizing. And in 24 hours, everything is complete. Like I showed on the web browser, if it says a red circle live, then that means it's not finalized. It will not start finalizing until the live stops. Okay, and is there an announcement of how much the driver is going up or down and then changes later on, or will it change instantly? Okay, I'll kick it back over to my to the web. Okay, so here's a driver, right? Let's go to the next race. Okay, let's click on Bottas. Okay, here where it says sentiment, it's neutral because everyone's still locked. It'll start going green to the right or red to the left. Okay, that is your only way to update. That's why I was manually coming into the web browser every day and typing it in what their sentiment was so I could start seeing trends. But like I said, I'm developing, I've hired someone to develop a Discord bot that will hopefully do all that tracking for me, because that's a lot of work for something that really, like, the statistics are nice at the end of the season. Like I just showed you how many times people peaked after the first race. But bro, dad, thanks for being patient. I feel like I'm doing all the talking here. Any thoughts what we're talking about?
No, but I appreciate you telling me about that live. I didn't realize that, and I didn't realize that you could drop down and modify your next team once the previous team locked. I didn't realize that. So now this year I can take advantage of that for the value, the trading.
Correct. So here, the reason why I'm doing it now is because it's free subs, because the sentiments haven't gone up or down, right? So let's say you pick up a driver. PlayOn will sometimes adjust the value of a driver based off of race performance. So that's why I did the sub immediately, so that if Magnussen's going to go up, you want to have him on your team, right? But most of the time, PlayOn does not do the race adjustments anymore. They usually leave it up to the market. So how I found out about this was last season. I was noticing that a driver after qualifying would still go up in value. I was like, how in the world? You can't be changing your team. How is he going up and down? And that's when I found out about that drop-down menu. People were making adjustments to next week's team based off of quality of this race. I don't recommend you do that because of the 3 sub rule that you have, but that goes to show that once this thing goes live, you being able to edit ahead of time might be beneficial to you. Adop says, I may have missed this, but what are your early recommendations on drivers to grab who are most likely to increase in cost this week? I kind of overviewed it. Pretty much anyone who finishes in the top 10 and is cheaper than drivers who finish below them, people are going to be dropping the low drivers. People think that are going to be scorers the whole season, you're not going to drop them, right? I doubt Verstappen and Verstappen and Perez are going to get dropped off of teams easily. If they start DNFing a second race, third race, then maybe. Case in point, Norris, amazing. He was the turbo driver last year. And then midway to the third of the season, he started having problems, but no one wanted to take him off his team. So people kept getting negative points because of some of the problems that he was having. So I think people will hold on to the Red Bull. Okay, Daniel, are we going to have spring races this year? You'll have to clarify. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Inigo, okay, thank you very much. Tiago, can I use the wildcard after 3 subs, or do I need to use it in the beginning? No, you can use it any time, but I've never, like, for example, when I did my sub, it says, oh, you're going to be at negative 10 points, but I hadn't saved my team yet. So make sure if you're going to activate your wildcard, activate it before you save your team, because I don't know if it automatically gives you negative 10 points upon saving your team, if you're able to then use wildcard afterward and then it'll remove it. I'm not sure about that. It's just when you're adding your team, it'll tell when you're getting negative points because you've done extra subs. And then that's when you'd want to activate your wildcard by clicking on the purple wildcard button. Okay, Tiago, if Magnussen goes up, but you want to keep it, how do you gain value with him? That is the reason why you need to watch Gaining Value video on YouTube, because I explain that, but I'll try to explain it in short right here. I don't want our live streams to go more than an hour, and so we've got 8 minutes left before we got to finish this, okay? I know we started early, so it's technically more than an hour. But it's just like the stock market. Wait, let me take back. It's just like the stock market, except they don't pay dividends, okay? So if you have Magnuson, he's worth 5.5 million, and he goes up to 9 million, that's dead cap space, right? You've gained all that money, and it means nothing to you because you haven't traded him off. So in order to lock that new thing, you would have to trade off Magnuson to pick up someone else, and then trade back to get Magnuson right before the race. And then that money got freed up to pick someone else up. Okay, so Leo, so basically for the first 2 to 3 races, I just use all my subs to day trade every driver I can find that is above 80% to increase my total budget. Yes, but remember, and Dad, you've always told me about this. What did you find out when you only have 3 subs to work with? Because I tell people, do not take negative points. Do not take negative points. Always just use 3. What was the strategy, Dad, if you're trying to day trade and you only have 3 subs?
So you can trade one out that you're planning on getting back, and you can trade for one out that you're not planning on replacing. You're planning on keeping them, and you'll be okay. But if you substitute 2 in and out, then you're already negative 10 points.
Okay, so to try to recap it, you get 3 subs. So think about it this way. You have a points pick and a money pick. Say Magnuson's your money and your points pick, okay? You sub out Magnuson to pick up another driver who's about to go up, okay? But you want to have Magnuson back. Well, then that means that you've now just used 2 subs to get Magnuson back, right? That means you only have 1 sub left, which means that if you're going to sub out, you have to keep whoever you sub, right? And so if you're day trading and you're day trading with a points pick, then recognize that you have to budget two subs for that. If you're doing a wild card, that's why it's great, because then you get 12 subs and you can change up the whole order and do all the trading, and then you can get your points pick back. But recognize that if you trade all 6 out, then that means you got to keep 6 slots to get your team again. That's why I recommend you only day trade with 1 to 2 slots max. Probably 1 is the best, right? Because most of us, like you guys said, have like 8 million, 4 million. We have millions of dollars of cap space. So you should be able to get away with just doing 1 sub in 1 slot. And then you can do that like 11 times to get all your value. Bro, how do you feel about this? Are you going to try your wild card or trying to day trade this season? Because you only have 1 team, right? You don't have 2?
Yeah, I only have the 1 team. That's kind of how I do it. Yeah, I'm going to try the wild card. See how it works. I feel like the team I started the season with was already pretty good. I'm sure I will see some increases just on that alone.
Because you only made 1 mistake, right? You had Schumacher instead of Magnuson.
I don't know why I made that decision.
That's fine. You can afford Magnuson. Might as well pick him up, right?
Yeah. I already made the switch on my for the next race.
Nice.
So
great.
I was like we're going live, but I'm over here switching out my fantasy team.
Right. So Leo asks, this will be our final question for this podcast. Excuse me, I'm so used to saying podcast. It's live stream. Okay. So he's asking, do you use the wild card now? And I would say, if you are going to use more than 3 subs, don't use the wild card and then not use your subs, because then they're lost. So my second team, I had to use 4 subs to do what I wanted. So I activated the wild card. So now I have to commit to using the wild card and day trading. Like I said, the Fantasy Tracker, when they did their podcast on their live stream, they don't have a YouTube that's called Fantasy Tracker. It's called like Motorsport AI or something. So their analyst, he said he's going to try to keep a flexible lineup for race 1 so that he has enough cap space to not use his wild card race 1, and he might use it race 2. But we'll see, because race 1 and 2 only a week between, whereas 2 to 3 I think has like two weeks in between. So there's a lot more time for day trading. Whew. Okay, so use wildcard now and put in everyone who's probably going to increase the value most. Yep, and then trade back before Saturday to score points. Yep, pretty much. Money picks are there only to raise your value. And we'll finish with this. We have 4 minutes left. Dad, tell your story real quick about what you learned lessons last year and what you're wanting to do this year when it comes to the day trading and how it affected you over the course of the season.
So last year I didn't understand day trading. I just had a team, and I'd pick the ones who were trending up. And in our 1 race challenge, I did well at the first half of the year. But then we hit the middle, and people who were who did day trading higher than 105 points, they were outscoring me. And so finally, by the last few races, I got to 105 points and I started competing again. So this year, I have a team that is going to be steady, a team that is going to be that I'm going to do day trading with, so that I can start strong and hopefully have a good strong middle and then end with one or both of the teams. But that means I have to spend more time paying attention to the sentiments.
True. And to clarify, when we use the term steady or day trading, a day trading team is where you are making money pick decisions for your team with the hopes that you are also going to get your points pick, right? You don't want to be just getting money, right? A steady team is where I say I'm going to make the minimal amount of substitutions. And the reason I do that is to keep my whimsy from getting in the way of scoring points. Team 1 outscores Team 2 this race because I stuck with the lineup that I should have had. If I had followed my 3 statistical secrets, I would have done the best, right? But I switched out Ferrari for Red Bull based off of how I thought that Ferrari might be fast in quali speed, but maybe Ferrari they would lose it in race. But that appears not to be the case, right? So I tried to keep team number 1 minimal trades to keep me from messing things up. Because at the end of the day, if you think about the stock market, you have to play the statistics. So the steady team is playing those statistics. Who are the drivers that you think are over the course of the season going to get you the most points? The reason why Dad is willing to do a day trading team with me because team 2 is who we might submit for the one race challenge. And the one race challenge, you sometimes need to like go heavy hitter or try an outside of the box strategy. So teams that have the bigger salary caps are able to have more leeway in trying those alternative strategies. So that is where we're at, guys. We got 1 minute left. Thanks, bro, Dad, and Paola. I know you left early, but thanks everyone in the chat for joining us. This is our first live stream for this year. Thank you, everyone who joined in the chat. This was a lot of fun. I don't have to do any editing, so that means when this is done, we're done. Woo!
That's really the best part right there.
That's the best part. Oh, hold on. Let me finish with this. We have passed 1,000 subscribers on this channel. Thank you to everyone. It's been great to have everyone a part. I was averaging a couple hundred views per video last season. We're breaking 1,000 views each video, and so the thing has really showed up. I'm a part of a racing community on Discord, and I'm like the FIA for it. And people are saying that they're getting my video recommended on their YouTube. So something with the algorithm. You guys are pushing that algorithm up. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Leo. He says, great one. Keep them coming. So until next time, we'll see you on the pit wall.